Hello, and welcome to Eagle Talks the 448. I'm your host, Lucas Straka, and here on our show, the students of the State University of New York at Brockport have taken on the responsibility of interviewing some of the faculty and staff of the Journalism, Broadcasting, and Public Relations Department here at the college. Recording live in the studio today, Emily Shapiro will be interviewing Professor Donna Rossi. But first, a message from SUNY Brockport.
In the beginning, I knew I had the passion and drive to achieve great things, but I was still a young lad in a big, cutthroat, competitive world. I was missing something that could give me access to opportunity, something that could open doors to my future, something that could get me started in the real world. It soon became clear I was looking for the key to success, and I found it at the College of Brockport.
Hello, Donna. Thank you for joining me today. So can you tell me a little bit about your experience with being a professor here at Brockport?
Hi, Emily. Thank you for having me, first of all. Yes, my background at Brockport, I actually started out as an adult student there. And through the late 1980s, after losing a job at Kodak, and I went back to college, and I ended up coming to Brockport. I earned my bachelor's degree from Brockport and then stayed on for my master's degree and was invited to become a teaching assistant at Brockport. And that was in August of 2000. And I still maintain a position with the college, teaching advertising and consumer culture. And it's been a great experience the past 20 years, getting to work with so many students and other professionals and teachers.
Good. So I know you're currently working from home. What has that been like?
Well, actually, it's been okay. I'm used to it. I have been working online teaching since 2005 for another college. But I do enjoy being able to work from home somewhat for the independence. But I have to say, on the other hand, I do also miss being on campus because that's my opportunity to get involved with the students, get to know them a little bit more. So while there's benefits to working from home, there are some disadvantages too, because you don't get that personal one-on-one time with students.
So on average, how many classes do you have in person? I mean, of course, if this weren't like a COVID situation, on average, how many classes would you have in person versus online?
Well, actually, I've been working for the past several years online for Brockport, mainly doing hybrid classes, and I haven't been on campus as much doing these hybrid classes. And one of the reasons is because we had set up a program for other disciplines who needed electives that had difficult schedules to maintain, like the nursing department. They came to us and we developed this course to help them with an elective and, because of their schedules. So, this is one way that hopefully it's been beneficial for students.
So has your style of teaching changed since COVID started?
Oh, not at all. No, I not really. Maybe the way things are done is a little bit different. I do transcribe my lectures for students, so that's different because when I transcribe my lectures, there might be new information I want to add on to the lecture. And so from semester to semester, I have to continuously update my lectures to maintain currency. But that's something it's a little bit different. And I also have to ask students to submit videos of themselves. Whereas if we're on campus, I don't need to do anything like that. So that's a little extra added job that students have to do when they take online classes as well.
Right. And I know that you specialize in education, of course. And I bet that that's interesting with your job, talking with people through screens. What's the major difference between, talking with someone in person versus through a screen? Is it difficult to do that?
A little bit more difficult than in person. I would say that the thing that you miss by using a screen is you miss the entire body language of the students. You're only seeing their face. And, in some respects, you can't always get the entire message this way. So there are, some kind of stipulations about it. But a lot of times students don't like to be on camera. And that's one of the problems I have is keeping students online in the classroom because of the camera. A lot of people are camera shy and they don't like to do that. When they're in the classroom, everybody sees each other, but outside of the classroom working online remotely, it's a little bit more difficult. So it's a little bit, it's not as comfortable for students or myself, actually.
Mm-hmm. And communications is such a versatile subject, to study. Do you have a favorite topic that or special interest that really stands out to you?
Actually, I do. I've always loved the concept of nonverbal communication. And of course, I just mentioned that too, but I think nonverbal communication is so valuable, but I don't think that students and people in general know enough about it to see how it actually works. Between facial gestures and expressions and eye contact, and even, the way we decorate our homes, drive our cars, all these have to do with nonverbal communication. And I find that a very, very interesting aspect of communicating with others.
Mm-hmm. And do you have a specific moment in your career that is the most impactful to you, if you could think of anything?
Yeah, actually I can. And I will say this, that I've had several of them actually. More so in my earlier days teaching when I was on campus more. But I think the most rewarding and the best kind of incident I ever have is when I receive emails from former students. And I just love to catch up with them, and I love to hear how they're doing. And it's just so, I'm so glad that I was able to take part in their education. And it means a lot to me when I hear from former students. I think that's got to be probably the best part of teaching, is just being in contact and being able to work with students and share some of my life experience with them too.
Mm-hmm. And what's the hardest part of being a professor?
I would say the hardest part for me is using the right judgment at sometimes. I have a tendency to give people the benefit of the doubt. And it's not a very good characteristic, but I guess I look at it as you just never know what's going on in a person's life. And sometimes it just makes it a little bit difficult to make a judgment call based on, a student's behavior or actions in class or attending class. So I think that's the hardest thing is, wanting to believe students and hoping that you make the right decision when you think you are believing them. If that makes sense. I'm sorry if that doesn't make sense. But,
no, I get it. Yeah. I guess my next question is, how do you get through moments like that? But I guess you kind of answered it, but if you could go into it a little bit more.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell, and especially you got to do a little bit of background. I look back on the students' work, I look at their attendance, I look at their participation in class, and if there's somebody that's been a very strong student and always gets their work in on time, I'm actually going to lean more toward favoring, giving them the benefit because they are a good student, because they show up, they communicate with me. But when you have a student that, they don't communicate with me, they aren't showing up or participating, and then all of a sudden they want help with something after you've given them many chances, I would think twice about allowing them to, maybe submit a paper late or something of that nature.
Mm-hmm. And did you have a moment where you decided you wanted to become a professor?
Actually, no, it's kind of, I hope we have time, but it's a funny little story. I'll make it brief. When I was pursuing my associate's degree at Monroe Community College, I met a man there, one of my teachers named Tom Porietti, who was in the media department at Monroe Community College. And because I was an adult, he kind of took me under his wing, and he ended up becoming my mentor at Monroe Community. And at the time, our chairperson was Jenny Batchelor and was good friends with Tom Porietti. Well, they offered me an assistantship, and I went for the interview, and then they offered me the position as a TA. But initially, I declined it because I didn't think that I had the qualifications or the credibility, and I didn't even have the confidence to do it. So I turned the job down. And I got a call a day or two later from Jenny Batchelor, and she said, "Congratulations, you are our newest teaching assistant." I said, "But I didn't really want the job." Well, I talked to Tom Porietti, and he told me, "You're taking the job because that job is for you." So I really had, it really wasn't me. It was my mentor who pushed me into the position. And I can't thank him enough for it. You know, almost 21 years later, I'm still there.
Mm-hmm. And I know you said you worked at Kodak, so has this something that's been in your head before then, or is it like the teaching job something that you decided to do after the fact?
I did this after the fact. Actually, I never, even as a young kid, I never really had any, I was more of an art major, and I never had any aspirations for teaching whatsoever. But, once I did get involved in it, I felt like I had been there my whole life. I felt like I walked into the place that I belonged. So, as nervous as I was about starting, I don't regret it one bit that Tom pushed me into this position, and I found I loved it ever since then. It was just like the first day I walked onto campus, I felt as though I was supposed to be there.
Okay, and any advice to anyone who wants to go in this direction?
I would say to use your personal experience when you're working with students. I think it's very valuable for students to understand what it's like to work in the real world as opposed to be working on campus or, in the campus environment or the scholarly environment. I think it's important for people to also realize that their own personal experience is going to benefit them, maybe not now, but maybe in the future. And they books and theories are great, but we also have to look at application and how we interact with other people, how we communicate with other people. So I think that, life experience plays a lot more part in relating to students and to trying to help them along than students might think. So it's not always about books, but it's always about, but it's also more about, applying yourself to these concepts and applying your life to the different aspects, just, for experience wise. Okay. And you learn from experience, whether it's your own or for somebody else's.
Mm-hmm. And we are running out of time here, but if you want to just answer this one quick question, do you have any future plans? Actually, I think we have to bring it back to the host, but thank you so much for joining me. It was really nice chatting with you.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, you have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
That was great. Thank you, Emily, and thank you to those tuning in with us today. This has been another production on Eagle Talks 448.